Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is February 23rd, 2022, and I'm making a quick video to thank all the people who have sent me some lovely gifts and accoutrements. It's always fun when you guys do things, so I want to show you a few things I've gotten. All right, so first we have this lovely book from Lone Wolf and Cub, and it's a big, thick one. It's actually a manga. It's the English version. And it came from a gentleman named Dr. David Allen and included a little quote here. It says, because the world is not only stranger than we suppose, it is stranger than we can suppose. Pretty good quote. Lone Wolf and Cub. So thank you, Dr. Allen. Then I got something from another group, the Veterans of War. They gave me some swag. They gave me a caduceus and their little logo right here, through difficulty to honors. And they also gave me a nice polo. So kudos to those guys. There you go. Look at that. Veterans of Wars. Yeah, they help a lot of people out. And then the MELD team sent me something interesting, and they included a little note here. It said, Dear Charles, managing the community of any crypto project inevitably comes with some repetitious questions. The most famous of all being, quote, when moon. You get irritated by it. We get irritated by it. Everyone gets irritated by it. It's such a common question that it has been elevated to meme status in virtually every crypto community. Thankfully, a clever artist in the community, Twitter handle har0ld16, started making cute anthropomorphic GIF, however that's pronounced. I've never figured that one out myself. Versions of all the major DApp projects, logos and mascots, vigorously mashing a big blue when button. Our CMO, Lise, named our version Meldito, and when he cites before you in corporeal plushy form. Now, anytime someone asks when moon on the stream, you can roll out this cute little guy to mash the when button. So the Meld team sent this to me. Look at that. When. Little button. When moon. And got one of these cute little plushies from the Meld team. It really is amazing to see the amount of growth we've had in the Cardano ecosystem. You know, there's hundreds and hundreds of dApps building interesting things. There are up days and down days. It's been a pretty depressing week for me. But all things considered, what makes the job worth it is you guys, the fans, and the supporters, and the people doing interesting things. In fact, I have a lovely letter right here, which I'm going to grab and read. Here we go. And this is from Pav Hughes. So let me go ahead and read it off. All right. Dear Charles, firstly, I want to begin by thanking you for your inspiration and ingenuity in the blockchain space. My husband and I are very new to this space, and we've been captivated by all the work Cardano and your team are achieving. There's a specific reason for me to reach out to you. I hope that you have the time in your busy schedule to review this email and kindly provide your thoughts on my request. Well, we're doing it right now. Congratulations. I live in the United Kingdom and have worked in the adult sector, care sector for over 10 years. I would describe myself as a professional and expert in my field. I'm passionate about my work. I have a friend who has learning disabilities, mental health problems, and behavioral needs. He has helped shape me as a professional and guided me through my work. Common problem within the care sector is that most of adults who require care and support are not able to advocate for their own needs, wishes, and choices. They rely on their families or friends, and all of those who don't have representatives rely on the social care systems to keep data and records, which should guide all healthcare professionals on the delivery of their care. Often, people's needs are not correctly identified. Consequently, they have unmet needs. This leads to depression, mental health problems, and isolation. Staff and care teams feel demoralized because they do not know how to support the individual because they lack information on the person's history or journey. Information is often not recorded correctly or not passed on between care administrator, commissioners, or providers. Understanding a little how the Atala Prism would resolve providing millions of people with an ID and securing their academic achievement credentials, I believe this technology would help resolve the problem in our current health and social care sector. When children enter the social care system from a young age, any information about them should be stored as they progress through life. This information helps them inform their care and support for decades later and possibly until their last day. Most people go on to develop dementia, and care staff cannot recognize or understand certain behaviors. If they had access to vital information from their childhood or younger years, it will help tailor a person centered care plan. And then she goes on to ask a little bit about fake news, but I'll address the question about dementia. So, some of you know, I have personal experience with dementia because both my grandmother on my mom's side, my maternal grandmother, and my grandfather and grandmother on my dad's side, my paternal, all died of neurodegenerative disorders, and all three of them suffered from some variant of dementia. My grandmother was dementia, unspecified. Grandfather was Alzheimer's, and my grandmother on the other side had Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia. In all cases, we watched them go from people that we loved and knew to people who were unable to communicate. They couldn't speak, they couldn't remember their own names, they had difficulty doing basic tasks, and eventually couldn't care for themselves in any capacity. And it was very hard. Having a phone call with my grandfather, who at the time had lived in Hawaii for more than 30 years, telling me he had just moved there and he's really excited about establishing some roots, and not realizing he was talking to his grandson and not a friend. And then eventually having a conversation where he didn't recognize me or my dad or any of his other four children. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And there's a broader issue in medical ethics about the notion of informed consent. So this is where you're told something, you understand whatever the treatment is, you understand the risk and reward of treatment. As many who are in the healthcare field are aware, not everything that is done to you is safe. It may be effective, it may not be, but there's always a risk. For example, if you have to get brain surgery, potential risk that after the surgery is done, you never walk again, or you lose vision, or your right hand's paralyzed, or something like that. A lot of people have debilitating back pain. And when they get a procedure done, that debilitating pain, they hope will be resolved. In some cases, it actually makes it worse, as many people have learned as they've gone through spinal surgery. So, how do you get consent from people who are incapable of providing consent, either the mentally challenged, or from people who suffer from memory disorders, or from people who are in vegetative states or comas? And this is a difficult one. And then there's a question of how do you give good care to people, especially when dealing with people who are chronically ill and people who are in a situation of neurodegenerative disorder. We'd like to believe that everybody involved in healthcare is compassionate and they treat each person as if it's the first patient they've ever seen and they're filled with joy and love. But the reality is that the nature of the job can wear down on you, especially in settings like hospice or memory care. Patients are combative, angry. Patients often suffer from depression. And no matter how hard you work, your job is to manage the decline to the inevitable end. You can't treat or solve the problem. And compassion is a finite resource. People get worn out and tired, which means the standard of care tends to deteriorate over time based upon how long the personnel have been working there. Couple that with the fact that because of the nature of these conditions, many things are missed. It's hard for a dementia patient to tell you that they're throwing up blood or they're having some pain somewhere. They might not know how, or they might forget to tell you. So it's very difficult, these settings, and it requires pretty special people to go in every single day and do these things. So the question is, how can you apply what we do, blockchain technology, to these types of settings. And so there's an interesting question about, well, medical records should never be lost, and key facts about a person should never be forgotten, especially when those key facts are quite relevant to a person's treatment. And so there's been a lot of questions about the aggregation and convergence of medical records to blockchain technology. And some people listening probably are involved in that. So the question there is, how do you do that in a way that preserves privacy? And also, how do you do that in a way that enables medical records to be more portable and secure? Uh, to date, I am not aware of any blockchain-based system for medical records that is both HIPAA compliant and widely adopted. That's not to say it can't be done, but it's a big technological challenge. And it's something that, because I now own a biotech company that happens to own a clinic that we're setting up in Gillette, we've had a lot of discussions about our electronic medical record system. And is it possible to augment or enhance that system in a way to include some form of a blockchain component, if anything, for an integrity check? But then there's this issue of completeness and what constitutes a good set of medical records for a patient. One of the things we're going to do at our clinic is that we're going to sequence the entire genome of each patient that comes in. It used to cost $3 billion to do that. It could be done for under $1,000. So we have the entire genome, and we can do things to understand the epigenome and how that changes over time. In addition to that, physicians are trained to do extensive histories if they have the time and the ability. So the genomic data combined with an aggressive set of labs combined with extensive history on the patient and scans can contain a beautiful fingerprint and baseline that you can then move forward from. The problem is it's not just a data question. It's a data analysis question, and it's a question of cognition. You need agents on a regular basis to review the medical records of the patient. So that can be AI assisted. You guys probably have seen things like Watson, which helps build differential diagnosis and these types of things. But also peer review of a physician's charts and care teams can definitely provide a lot of value in the discussion of whether the medical records are complete and also the history of actions on the patient are complete. We don't do that commonly in the United States and frankly in the world, which is why so many people have been lost in the healthcare system. They have chronic ailments or unresolved issues, undiagnosed issues, or misdiagnosed issues that linger for years to decades that dramatically deteriorate the quality of life. So this is a problem I do think about, and unfortunately there aren't very easy answers, and it's something we're going to have to solve in our own clinic. And as we go through it, we're going to learn a lot more. But I do appreciate it, and I respect and appreciate the hard work that you do. And as I mentioned, it's hard to stay compassionate, and it helps to have people close to you that inspire you every day and remind you every day that that is the duty and burdens of those in healthcare. Always be near and dear to my heart. Now, one final gift. This one is pretty special. From time to time, we have artists in our community, and I really do apologize to this one because there apparently was a note with this, and the note got accidentally thrown out with the shipping package, but we've been in email content. And this comes from Crystal Badua, and she painted this. I think it's a watercolor. It looks like one. Took her a hell of a long time, and then shipped it to our office. And I said, wow, this is pretty special. So I wanted to show and share all of you guys. And I think she has a birthday coming up. So it would be fun if you all said happy birthday to Crystal. Thank you so much for this. Let me show you. Isn't that crazy? It's a beautiful painting. So I can't believe how much time that probably took. It was probably weeks or months. And, it's always humbling. I don't know what to do with these things, because if you hang them in the office, then you come into office and I get a lot of Charles stuff. You just walk into this area where there's nothing but Charles paintings and Charles drawings and Charles NFTs and so forth. And then people are like, wow, this guy is really narcissistic. So then you don't hang them, and then you put them in, like you put them in like a warehouse or something, and then you're like, well, that person put all this effort into doing this and wants me to have it. So it's a difficult one. I have another one painted of me, and that's an oil painting from the Netherlands. I think this one comes from the Philippines, and it's me with a falcon on my shoulder, the famous Mongolia picture. And I still have that in my office, but I haven't figured out what to do with it. I'm probably going to give it to my mom or something like that. But anyway, I really appreciate these things. The thought really does mean a lot to me, and it still makes me embarrassed a bit when people send me these things, because I'm not used to this kind of stuff. And it just shows you how great our community is and how lovely all you people are. It's tough being the founder of a cryptocurrency and helping an ecosystem along. You carry the burdens of so many on your back, the hopes and dreams of so many people. And things are getting tough now. We're in the fight stage of Cardano's life. The reality is that in short order, Cardano is going to start changing things. And that's great for the world, but it also means that some of the people who lose, like the entrenched interest, the centralized power structures, they start utilizing the predictable tactics like the politics of personal destruction and all kinds of tools. So it's going to be a tough year in a certain respect, where there's going to be lots of people writing horrible things and saying terrible things, and then all kinds of chicanery. And for me, that noise is reassuring, because it means that we're in the part where we're winning. The reality is that 8 years ago, I went to Bermuda on an invitation and did a TED talk where I talked about the potential use cases of cryptocurrency. And I said economic identity is the big deal, and remittances and microfinance, these things are worthwhile pursuits of a lifetime. And if we achieve them, we change the lives of billions of people. The reason why people make these blue buttons and they send me these gifts is because they've been inspired to participate in that journey together. I was alone back then. It was just me opining on my thoughts. Old Charles, no one cared. And now, as you see by all these things, there are millions of people, and they're asking fundamental questions in their own areas of expertise, whether it be how do we give economic identity to people or liquidity to those who don't have it, to artists who are finding inspiration and believe they can be part of the revolution, to people who are personally impacted by the inefficiencies and, in some cases, lack of compassion in the healthcare system. It's a pretty amazing thing to be in the nexus of all of that and see all the hopes and dreams and feelings of so many people, and be able to provide some solace and potentially at least a sounding board for how we can do better as a society. Now, predictably, the people who benefit from the way the world is today, warts and all, will resist change. But despite them, we have to find a way to change ourselves, our communities, and society as a whole, because too many people are being left behind. Too many people have a bad deal. And it's not moral when you have the ability to do something, not to do something. Every single one of you, I'd like to believe, if you see somebody collapse in front of you, you see somebody drowning, you see someone fall, that you'd walk over and try to give them a hand. It's just human nature. I believe in the better angels of our nature. I don't think we're intrinsically bad. I think we're intrinsically good. And what we are witnessing as a world is collectively billions of people drowned and fall and have a hard time. And the only reason we don't go over to help them is because we're watching from a distance behind glass. There's nothing we can do. The problems of Africa, the problems of Southeast Asia, the problems of South America, the problems of the economically disenfranchised areas of America itself, they seem so far away. This is the first time in all of our lifetime where we actually remove the glass, and everything that's far away is now close to us. I'm going to go back to Bermuda in October, and we're going to bookend that TED Talk. We're going to show all the progress we've made and everything that we as an industry and we as an ecosystem, Cardano, have achieved in the last 8 years. And there's a lot to say, more than you can imagine. And that's our small part. And my belief is that the inspired millions who now belong to Cardano, the ones who paint these pictures and send these buttons and these lovely letters, you too will have your own TED Talks, and you too will build your own things and make the world a better place. That's a movement, and you can't beat that. You can use the politics of personal destruction. You can criticize people. You can say whatever the hell you want, whenever you want. But you can't criticize a movement, especially one that has history on its side and one that is selling ultimately a better world. This is a challenge that our entire industry has to face. We haven't, as an industry, been the best of custodians of that message, and that's because of the human nature itself. You see, the one truth that is quite universal is human beings will always let you down. Always. There are no exceptions. That's what it means to be human. In some area, some way, we make a mistake. But the other side of being human is building institutions, processes, procedures, policies that are resilient enough to admit the occasional mistake. And evolution itself is a process of mistakes, random mutations that every now and then lead to something special and have taken us from a single-celled organism to who we are today and beyond. And so the point is that we keep getting back up and we keep trying and we keep pushing forward. And the beautiful thing is what we've constructed together as an industry, these systems, cryptocurrencies, are born of the mistakes of the past to help us not make them again. They come with their own challenges and mistakes and problems. And the next generation that uses them will fix the ones that we weren't good enough to fix. But because they exist, it gives me hope that in the 21st century, we can do better than the 20th. And after all, that's the challenge of each generation. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all so much for the love and support and the gifts. And I just wanted to make a video to say that and showcase the people who've sent things to me and tell me you are heard and acknowledged. I do get them from time to time. And let's just keep chipping away at the work. Good night.